McLaren at war. So what happened at the first corner? Lando Norris got by Oscar Piastri. We'll look at the footage in a bit with a bit of a bump. And Oscar Piastri was not particularly happy. And the Papaya Racing rules has changed, at least according to ESPN 1. And, I mean, Piastri has come out there and said, so we are cool with Lando just barging me out the way, or what's the go there? We're looking at it. Let me get back to you, they said. And he went, yeah, I mean, that wasn't very team-like for sure. They did hit each other. Let's be fair. They very much did. And I've got... Let's have a look at the footage, shall we? This is from the top. This is from the top here. So we're cool that Lando just barged me out the way. Yeah, Lando did hit him. I mean, absolute stone bonker. Lando did hit him. But there is a reason why. And I think it might be slightly unfair to completely blame Lando. Here's the footage here. Here's Lando Norris. I mean, he's pretty much off... Not well, half off the track. Still legal. He's still partly on the track. Going forward. And then, at this point, he's right alongside. He's right alongside Oscar, dear old Oscar. And again, he's alongside dear old Oscar. And now, I mean, Oscar, he wants to go around the outside. As you can see, Max Verstappen is there. Lando Norris is catching Max Verstappen in the braking zone in a pretty harsh race of knots. And he turns. And Max Verstappen is now very slow. He realises, oh my gosh, I might hit Max Verstappen. I might lose a bit of my front wing. But here he goes. And then Oscar there. Now, the issue... Now, what I would like to note is, Oscar, this is roughly about the same bit. Oscar has all that space there. I know Lando does as well, eventually. But he's got all that space there. And then Lando, naturally, he's just going out. Oscar's still turning. He sees it. Oscar, to be fair, he could let him have a bit of space, but he chooses not to in this moment. Now, you're making split-second decisions. So, it's so easy now, you know, to criticise the next day in hindsight. As we know, hindsight is 20/20. I know that's a bit, you know, cheesy. And then they bump. And I tell you what, it is quite a severe bump. Bang. And I completely understand why Oscar Piastri at that point is really, really, really cross. He's like, wow, that's not good at all. This is now the start again. And as you can see here, Lando now is Lando here is alongside Oscar Piastri. No, sorry, that's Oscar Piastri. There's Lando, and he's coming in. They're side by side, and Lando now, look, he's alongside Oscar. He needs the room, but this is where obviously it gets interesting. And when you look at this version, it doesn't look so bad. There we go. Now he's right next to Max. He's really stuck. He's been pinching. He has nowhere to go. And yeah, they just end up coming to. I don't think when we look at it, I don't think it's as bad as people think. It is one of those things. It is kind of like a racing. It is pretty much a racing incident. But there we go. And Oscar's come out and said if he has to avoid another car by crashing into his teammate, then that's a pretty bleep job of avoiding. Once Oscar sees the whole thing, I understand he's angry, and I don't think he'll be as annoyed because it wasn't a deliberate thing. But here's it, and it shows you why Oscar is so angry. Oscar Piastri appeared to cut team boss Zach Brown off mid-sentence right as he was congratulating McLaren on what was back-to-back Constructors' Championships. Zach Brown, Oscar, back-to-back champions. Good race, tough race, thank you. Radio then disconnects, apparently. Allegedly. So, and this was the team celebrations, and someone's put that Oscar didn't join the Constructors' podium. Now, there's been some suggestion that maybe he is there somewhere. Also, maybe he was in the media pen, but I thought this was really weird. Surely they wouldn't have started it without Oscar Piastri, but I can't quite... You can't see him here. Maybe he was. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, maybe we're making a mountain out of a molehill. If he wasn't there, I'm sure there's a very good reason. I don't think he'd be as unprofessional as not be there. Maybe he was there. No one saw him. I'm sure there's many reasons, but this is doing the rounds on the media. This is doing the rounds on social media. And Jenson Button had something what I thought was quite interesting to say about Oscar Piastri. He said, it's racing, he's side by side, he had a little tap into the back of the Red Bull of Max, and he's got a bit of oversteer, which is quite unusual. I think it just shows how low the grip was. He didn't purposely try to push him in the wall. It's not like he drove him into the wall. It's not like he drove all the way to the wall, hoping that Oscar would hit the wall and disappear. It was halfway through the corner. He had a snap of oversteer. If I was Oscar, I'd be like, my teammate got the better of me there, and that's it. But it seemed to annoy Oscar all the way through. There were radio calls up until like 7 and 8, where I get it. He made his point, and then he was just moaning. I mean, this is the Iceman. And the last 2 races, he's been the melty man rather than the ice man. If you look at Oscar Piastri, he yeeted it into the wall in Baku qualifying. He yeeted it into the wall in Baku, the race. And now here, he did a good job of out-qualifying Lando in what I thought was maybe a slower car, because Lando seemed to have it more put together at Singapore until the classic qualifying. We had Choke Norris almost come out. Oscar Piastri out-qualified him, but he got done at the start by Lando Norris. And yeah, the bang would have really annoyed. I get it, but he just wouldn't be quiet about it. He was like throwing every toy he had in the cockpit out. And that's really unlike Oscar. That's the opposite of Oscar Piastri. Maybe it shows the pressure does get, is now getting to him in the championship. Maybe he feels that McLaren, because of everything that's happened in Italy, etc., are not really behind him. Hence that radio disconnect. Only, if I'm really honest, only time will tell, and this is it here. And that's the moment. So we are cool with the Lando just barging me out of the way. Or what's the go there? Yeah, at the time, I get it. But he made it like a massive thing. He just wouldn't stop talking about it, would he? Sadly. But there we go.